Hi everyone and welcome to this video that I am so excited to film because it is literally unlike any other video I have on my channel so far. And at the time of me posting this video, I have well over 100 videos on my channel. So the fact that I'm doing something totally different is pretty exciting. If you are confused by the title, have no fear. I will quickly explain right now. But I thought it would be fun to define a decade of music. And I naturally picked the early 2000s. So how it's gonna roll, how this is gonna go is I went through the years 2000 to 2009 and selected two, maximum three songs for each year to what I call define a decade of music. This was a fun challenge for me. It definitely took me back, took me on a trip down memory lane, and I had so much fun compiling the list. I love looking back at music, especially music through the years, because that is something that I think is wonderful about music is that it is something that a lot of people associate with times of their lives or memories and such. So this was naturally so incredibly fun because looking at the music from 2000 to 2009, that is my whole childhood and early teenage years right there. Like that is it for me. So basically, a lot of stuff was happening. A lot of formative years were all packed in that decade for me. How did I pick the songs? I selected the songs based off of a couple criteria. One, I did look at the charts, what was the most popular songs for each of the years, and definitely took that into consideration. But I took that into consideration combined with my own personal song association for that year. I hope that explains it. This is meant to be totally fun, and I hope that this will inspire you to take a trip down memory lane too and reflect on some music from the year 2000 to 2009. Here we go. Let's go ahead and get started with the first year, the year 2000. The year 2000, I have three songs, and this for sure was a massive year in pop. Boy bands were all the rage. So naturally, the first song I have on here is Bye 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 by NSYNC from the No Strings Attached album. Yes, I was an NSYNC fan. In fact, my very first concert happened in the year 2001, and you guessed it, who did I see? NSYNC. That's exactly who I saw. And it was magic. It was magic. I don't think the year 2000 could go unnoticed without at least one boy band song. So there we are. Bye Bye Bye. Next up is another song that I think is the epitome of the new millennium, and that is Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears. I had that CD and I was obsessed with that music video. That whole red outfit, I thought it was so cool. I was such a young little girl at that point, but I looked at Britney Spears and I thought, she is the coolest woman I've ever seen. Look at that outfit. Oh my gosh. That song is everything. It's definitely, I think, one of my favorite singles from Britney Spears' catalog for sure. So there was no way I wasn't going to include that. And then finally, here's a group or a duo, I guess is more accurate, that truly dominated the early 2000s for many years. And we're going to start with, this is the first mention I have of them, but I do think I have some more mentions of them. That is Miss Jackson by OutKast. OutKast really hit a radio play stride in the early 2000s. So Miss Jackson was a given to also include for this year. Now we're going to 2001, and the first song I have is from a breakout star in the year 2001, and that is Fallen by Alicia Keys. Do I need to say more? Do I need to say more? Her songs have an insane staying power to them and the ability to be covered over and over and over again by many people. So naturally, that had to be on the list. This next song is kind of talking more about the soft rock side of things of the early 2000s that was very popular, and that is Drops of Jupiter by Train. I'm going to be totally honest. I've heard this song way too many times in my lifetime to say that when I hear it, I get enjoyment out of it. However, Drops of Jupiter is a song that as soon as I hear it, I immediately am transported back into the early 2000s, which is why I ended up putting it on this list. And I have an honorable mention that I really wanted to include, but I'm keeping it as an honorable mention on here for 2001, and that is Let Me Blow Your Mind with Eve featuring Gwen Stefani. Eve! She was another one that was majorly popular in the early 2000s. And Gwen Stefani, too. This is not the last you have heard her name on this list because, quite frankly, I forgot how many singles she had in this decade of music. But I felt like that duo, the Eve and Gwen Stefani duo, was very much so. I mean, that song was very popular, but both of them were super popular at this time period, so I felt like it was appropriate to include them for the year 2001. 2002. The song I'm going to say right now is actually one of the songs I immediately thought of in general when I decided I was going to make this video. And the first one is Lose Yourself by Eminem. Like, come on. Lose Yourself is, to this day, beyond popular. I will never, ever be able to hear that song without screaming out, "Mom, spaghetti." Like, it doesn't happen. Like, I can only ever think about that line. I don't know. It just gets me every time. Lose Yourself was from the 8 Mile soundtrack. And I mean, this was not like the first big single for Eminem. It wasn't. But this one has had an insane amount of staying power. Literally almost 20 years old at this point, and people still love that song. It's an iconic song from the early 2000s. Next, we're going to the punk rock side of things. Punk pop rock is more appropriate for this song, and that is Complicated by Avril Lavigne. Nothing screams the year 2002 to me like Complicated. The year 2002 was like the most simple year for me to figure out what I wanted to put because I immediately thought of Eminem and Avril Lavigne. Has anyone to this day not heard either of those songs? I don't think anyone has not heard Lose Yourself or Complicated. They just have been around ever since they've been released. My honorable mention for the year 2002 is one that I think many people, I mean, obviously many people know it. It was very popular. But it was also made super popular when it was in the 2004 smash hit comedy, in my personal opinion, White Chicks. 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton. I don't need to say more. 2003. This is another song, and this is a hip hop song from the early 2000s that I couldn't remember what year it came out when I first thought about making this list, but I knew whenever I found it, it for sure was going to be included. And that is In the Club by 50 Cent. 50 Cent was a very popular rapper pre-2010, 100%. He had many successful songs and singles, but In the Club is like the epitome of early 2000s rap in my brain. I feel like I heard it all the time. And let's be honest, I was far too young to be hearing it as much as I did, but that didn't stop me. And we're back to another OutKast song that came out in 2003 that I think has had even more radio play than Miss Jackson, and that's Hey Ya. Hey Ya, I felt like was everywhere for a few years running. And it's kind of still stayed around since then, but it's just another amazing radio song by OutKast. Finally, the year 2003, we kind of go back to more of the rock side of things, and that is Bring Me to Life by Evanescence featuring Paul McCoy. That song got played on the radio a lot where I was living at that point in my life, and it has a very particular early 2K sound to me, and kind kind of along with Evanescence. I didn't include any of their songs on here, but do we all remember the band Creed? They had a lot of songs going on too during this time period. So that kind of a vibe musically was also a popular was a popular genre of music at this point in time. We are on to the year 2004, and I actually only have 2 songs for 2004. One of them is a song that has played at every wedding or school dance I ever went to ever in my life, and that is Yeah by Usher. I didn't write down who's all featured in it, and I cannot remember off the top of my head. Pretty sure Lil Jon is featured on it. I know Ludacris is on that song. I am missing people, but yeah. Yeah. I'm realizing that the word yeah is the whole chorus of that song. Usher really had a very good time in the early 2000s. I don't include his other songs on my list, but there was Burn, there was Confessions Part 1 and 2. I mean, that was really a music stride in Usher's career. And the second song for the year 2004 was a pop masterpiece, more bubblegum pop, and that is Get Out by JoJo. I am so happy to see that JoJo is kind of like back on the scene currently, because she had that song and she did kind of just fade into the background for quite some time. So I'm glad to see that she's out and about again, doing the things, getting her name out there, because honestly, she had one of the most popular songs in the year 2004. 2005, we're going to talk about some Kanye West, finally, and this is Gold Digger featuring Jamie Foxx. Gosh, 2005 Kanye, I just love it. So good. His music, amazing. And Gold Digger was the perfect combination of being very radio friendly, but also very much being very Kanye. And I really enjoyed it. It's to this day, I still listen to Gold Digger. It's just a really catchy song that was perfect to have as a single because it did very well on the radio. I told you Gwen Stefani would be back, and she is back here in 2005. And this song was released as a single in 2005, but I think it was on an album that came out before that. But I'm still going to include it because this is the year it really dominated. And that is Holla Back Girl. I was obviously very young in 2005. And at that point in time, I just did not understand why that song was so popular. When I hear Holla Back Girl now, I guess it doesn't surprise me how popular it was because it gets stuck in your head. It just does, whether you want it to or not. And then she goes on to spell out the word bananas towards the end of the song a few times in a row. Everything about it, it just gets literally ingrained in your brain after you hear it one time, which I think is probably why it was so popular, because no one could escape it once they heard it. And my honorable mention for 2005 is a song that was actually released in the very end of 2004, but it screams early 2000s to me, and that is Since You've Been Gone by Kelly Clarkson. This song dominated in the year 2005. Pretty much anything from that album, that Kelly Clarkson album that she released as a single, was just did exponentially well on the radio and was everywhere for a very, very long time. Been Gone, though, is like the queen of all of her singles from that album. It just literally, the moment I hear it, I am transported back to the year 2005. On to 2006, and we're going to start with Sexy Back by Justin Timberlake. This song was such a huge transition in Justin Timberlake's music, and I think it shocked some people at first, but then it's right up there with Yeah by Usher in that I don't think it's a song that I have not heard played at pretty much any school dance that I went to when I was in school, but also at any wedding I have ever been to presently. Now, Timbaland was I believe he worked on Sexy Back. No, he definitely worked on Sexy Back. And he is also a part of this next song, and that is Promiscuous by Nelly Furtado. I know of about maybe a couple songs by Nelly Furtado, but this one was everywhere in the summer of '06. I mean, everywhere. And honestly, the year 2006 was great to Timbaland, because between that and all the work he did with Justin Timberlake, he was making very good choices musically that year. My honorable mention from 2006 that I still feel like I hear a decent amount, like out shopping and such, is Crazy by Gnarls Barkley. That's definitely a song where I don't think I know of any other songs by Gnarls Barkley. I can just be honest and say that I really only know that single of his, and I've never like taken a dive into his music before. But that was one of those singles that I just think as soon as it got released, I heard it all the time, everywhere. Year 2007, I could not talk about 2007 without talking about Umbrella with Rihanna. And I'm talking just either the original Umbrella or the one that's featuring Jay-Z. Either or, it doesn't matter. That was 2007 was the start of like Rihanna just dominating for the next like 5 years on the music scene, honestly. Whether it was her own work or she was featured on songs, I feel like I was listening to her everywhere. And I wasn't mad about it. Really wasn't mad about it. She's got a wonderful voice. But Umbrella was definitely the one that topped them all in regards to popularity for that year. Could I really talk about the early 2000s without talking about Fall Out Boy? I think not. Thanks for the Memories from 2007 was everything my junior high self needed and more. I lived for that song. I lived for that Fall Out Boy album, and it was amazing. For me, that was definitely a song that when I hear it, it immediately takes me back to that time in my life because I had it on repeat a lot. This next song, and this is where I've never really discussed this artist too much on my channel, but this is a personal opinion's coming out right now. This is definitely kind of getting towards the end of prime Maroon 5, and that is Makes Me Wonder. That was so popular, and I love the groove of that song. I don't feel like I'm alone in saying that earlier Maroon 5, the better. Like early Maroon 5 was amazing. It Makes Me Wonder was amazing musically. It still had that element where it was catchy for radio, but it had such great musicality and a wonderful groove to it that I was all about it the very first time I heard it. And I still like the song. I mean, yes, it has been played far too many times ever since it's been released, but if I look past that, just the fact that I've heard it so much musically, I am all about everything that's happening on that song. 2008, and we're going to start with T.I., Whatever You Like. I definitely had a period of time in 2008 where I listened to a lot of T.I.'s music. Is that going to surprise people? Probably. I don't know, man. It was just like a chill hip hop song that got wildly popular, and I was suckered right into it too. I listened to it a fair amount. Next, we have a song by a band that I love to this day. Will always love them, and that is Viva La Vida by Coldplay. Viva La Vida was like a life-changing experience for me when I first heard it. I just loved how complex it was musically and all of the different elements. 2008 was kind of the period of time where I was starting to become actively more aware of like instruments and layers and such when I was listening to music. So, I mean, this is right around when I got my first either iPod or MP3. I can't remember. So I was definitely able to listen to music a lot more like in my headphones. That entire album, amazing, but Viva La Vida was so popular and is still so popular. I mean, that one is a very popular song to this day. Here is my honorable mention for 2008, and it is a completely selfish honorable mention, and that is Burnin' Up by the Jonas Brothers. When I first heard Burnin' Up, I probably screamed and screamed because, yes, I was a Jonas Brothers fan. And Burnin' Up, I thought was just such a cool upgrade in their music from where they were at prior to that. That whole A Little Bit Longer album, I think, is a genius Jonas Brothers album. I could probably make a whole video about that, but I won't. But Burnin' Up was like the song of the summer for me in 2008. And to this day, if you think I listened to that song without screaming the line "red dress," you're wrong. I think many Jonas Brothers fans can attest to that. Finally, the year 2009. As soon as I thought about the year 2009, the first song I knew I was going to include was Bad Romance by Lady Gaga. She's had so many popular singles over the years, but Bad Romance is definitely a dominating single in popularity, and rightfully so. I have never gotten tired of that song. It is a genius pop perfection song. I love it so much. Next, this screams mid 2000s in that time period, and also a song that has been played at every wedding I have ever been to, and that is I Got a Feeling by Black Eyed Peas. I don't think I have been to a single wedding that has not played that song as one of the first few pump up songs to get the reception going. Black Eyed Peas in general in the early 2000s, they had a lot of singles, but I don't think any of them have had quite the insane staying power as this particular single. Next up, I put it as an honorable mention, but I only said honorable mention because it actually was a late 2008 release, but it was dominating in 2009. And that is Single Ladies by Beyonce. Is that a surprise? Absolutely not. That was just, the music video for that is iconic. If you hear that song, I just think of the music video. Everyone does the little dance that goes with it, but Beyonce really outdid herself with that because this music of that song was interesting enough and unique enough that it caught your attention, and it was something more than just a basic sort of melody. But then obviously her amazing vocals, but the music video that was paired up with that song just completely pushed it over the edge in popularity. This is early YouTube days, so it could spread like wildfire on the internet, early social media days, and it was just genius, honestly genius. And I think Single Ladies, that whole entire era and everything, is definitely one of many iconic moments in Beyonce's career. So there you have it. Those are my songs to define a decade of the early 2000s. Let me know what songs you associate with the early 2000s. I genuinely would love to know in the comments. I had so much fun pre-planning this video. I just feel like this was something I've been wanting to do for a very long time. And I know these sorts of videos don't get as many views as some of my other videos, but I really don't make my content only for what's going to do well. I really do just want to make the content I want to make. You can check out in the description of this video. I have a link to my Patreon, Instagram, and Twitter. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested. And if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. But thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it until the very end of the video. And until my next one, bye.